So we're going to talk a little bit about the wood we're going to be using in Brad's ukulele. First of all, this is a chunk of crabapple, and if you look at the orientation of the grain, you can see the grain is running this way, which means that it is quarter sawn. Similarly here, it's running like that. And what that does for you is that the expansion of the wood as humidity changes in the direction perpendicular to the rings is least. So that means that this thing is going to be swelling and shrinking the lowest amount possible. So which is good, so that the parts that are mounted to it, like the fretboard and whatnot, they will try not to come loose. So that's a very good thing. So that's important. On the sides, the direction of the grain is like this. Once again, so you have minimal expansion and contraction. This goes into this guy here, and that helps keep the sides from wanting to split. So when the sides fit into the neck and wrap around to form the body, that helps hold it together. The grain orientation in the front and the back is also in the quarter sawn direction, so the grain lines are running in and out of the workpiece. In this case, it's the back. And that, once again, produces the least amount of expansion this way, so that it tends not to want to split due to expansion. On the front, the grain also runs in that quarter sawn direction, and that is good for the expansion purposes of not wanting the thing to split. But wood is also weakest in this direction, so from side to side there's not a lot of stiffness. There's quite a bit of stiffness along the grain lines. This way it's much more stiff than this way. And what that does is it helps resist the bending moment that's created by the string tension, which tends to want to make the top kind of form a curve as that string pull tries to bend the structure. And so by orienting it this way, you get the best resistance of that bending. And you get, because it's wimpy in this direction, you get good propagation of sound, of deflection, the sound waves from the strings being plucked. That works out well to go into the cavity here at the base in the lower bout of the ukulele. So that it gives you a good volume and good tone. So everything has been thought about. This is the piece I plan to use for the bridge. And in the bridge, you don't want the thing to crack. And so to keep it from splitting, you don't want this to be quarter sawn, because there would be a tendency for it to split along the grain lines. So in this case, we have the grain lines running in sort of a rift sawn direction, and that helps keep it from wanting to split. So that keeps that nice and strong. The soundboard is also quarter sawn, just like the neck is quarter sawn. So the grain direction is up and down. And once again, that's to keep this thing from wanting to expand this way. When we cut the slots for the frets, you don't want the soundboard to be, or the fretboard to be expanding much. So by cutting it this way, you get the least amount of expansion. And so it doesn't cause the frets to stick out and whatnot and get loosened by that. So it gives you the best shot at durability of your instrument. So that's what we've done for the grain direction. Now we have to decide on the sides, do you want the top to be up against the white side or the top to be up against the brown side? And if you look at the the top. The top is going to be mostly white in the parts that show. And so what I've chosen to do is to use the top will be up against that part of, the top will be this edge right here that's white. You're thinking, well, Keith, that's not going to have much contrast because you're going to have white against white, and that's not going to be, contrasty and interesting. But we will bind the ukulele with a strip of darker wood, either crabapple from the heartwood, or else more likely I'll use black walnut, which is a very dark wood. And so you'll have that white top with a layer of black walnut binding, and then the white side up against it. On the bottom, once again, we'll probably have black walnut binding, and it's so much darker than the crabapple heartwood that it'll be pleasing to the eye. Now, this gets really, really tricky. Well, it's easy to mess up. It's the next thing, and that is, here you have your sides, and there's a show side and a not show side on these guys. And what you want to have is to have the book match here to be on the show side. So on the instrument, this guy will be over here, and this guy will be over here, and that will this thing will be upside down like this. And what that does is that means that the part that shows where this thing wraps around and meets the tail end, that part will meet with a book match, so that will look really nice where those two things come together. So there's that has been decided too. So that's, now the tricky part is when I bend this, bending it with the right orientation, so that when it goes into the form and dries, and when the wood is bent and it cools and takes its new bent shape, that you have the show sides on the outside. It is so easy to screw that up and to put the show side on the inside. Quite frankly, it would not make a heck of a lot of difference here, because the not show side is very pretty. And would you be able to tell the difference between that book match versus this book match? No, you probably couldn't. But what you definitely don't want to do is to screw up and put one of these things in upside down, so that the book match, so that you have one like this and one like this. You don't want to do that. That would be a disaster. So got to make sure I don't do that. And since bending is next, that's going to be the forefront of my thinking.